Hi everyone, how you doing? My name's Rich and this is TSK F1 and I'm going to make these little post-race videos and I think I'm going to call them the checkered flag. Very original, I know. I think it was a really good Grand Prix. It had a bit of everything, unexpected strategies, VSC, safety car, and just pace from places you didn't really expect. Max Verstappen taking the victory there. A little bit lucky at one point with when the virtual safety car dropped for him and the safety car, but all in all, really the right person won the Grand Prix. George Russell into second there. It was an interesting race because it was said that the hard tyres were no good here. Pirelli said no, the delta is too big and the hard tyres will be no good. But we saw in the early stages that the Mercedes cars went a long time on their mediums and kept really, really good pace on those mediums. In fact, towards the end of their medium run, going really, really quite quickly, setting in personal best laps and such. And then they brought themselves really into contention at one point without a VSC or safety car. Both of the Mercedes cars would have been able to make their one-stop work to such an extent they would have been in front of Verstappen when he made his final projected stop. So it was really interesting from the Mercedes point of view how they did there. But with how it all turned out in the end, we had Bottas. He lost his transmission or something towards the end with about 12 laps to go, 13 laps to go, something like that. And he parked his car on the start-finish straight on the right-hand side at the end of the pit wall. Safety car. Now, I've not looked at the timings of this. I'm not into conspiracy theories. But all I will say, when I was live streaming on the watch-along, it took them a crazy amount of time to call the safety car, especially when we'd already seen Sainz overtake Ocon, I think, coming up towards the stricken car of Bottas. Now, for me, I don't care who's winning. I don't care who's in front. I don't care about the gaps. If there is a car in such a position, they need to throw a safety car immediately. For me, safety beyond everything for me. Same with Tsunoda. We saw Tsunoda, I think it was a VSC they called for Tsunoda because it was parked quite advantageously next to a gap in the barrier. But when you've got a car at the end of the start-finish straight, in a position where it's the prime overtaking spot, I don't even want to think about the potential of someone not realizing, not seeing double wave yellows, going for an overtake, getting it wrong, and there is a packed Formula One car right in. Just no. And whatever the reason for the delay in that safety car, I don't want to see it again. I'm just being a race fan. I do not want to see a stationary car under any amount of yellow flags on the racetrack. He wasn't pulled off to the side. He was on the racetrack. Safety car immediately. Even if he gets going, fine. But we do that immediately. We neutralize it immediately. I know I'm going on a little bit here. Like, I'm a bit of a Mick Schumacher fan and Alonso fan. They could have been winning by 3/4 of a lap. I'd still have been screaming safety car. They're heroes, these guys, and I don't want to see him get into an accident over nothing. Some were saying it was timed perfectly to allow Verstappen to get all the way around. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I'm not into conspiracies at all. But what that did allow was Russell to get onto the softs. He made the call here. He made the call. He didn't think he'd be able to hold on to the mediums. He made the call, put the softs on, and as such, overtook Hamilton. Leclerc in third. Honestly, Ferrari not showing great race pace there. Really, you would expect Ferrari to be in front. I don't think Leclerc had a great day at the office, honestly, even though he got the podium. Hamilton there, it was all looking great for Hamilton until he didn't make the same call Russell did. Now, there are two sides to this. Partly, I agree with Hamilton complaining because maybe he felt like he wasn't furnished with all the information that the team had at hand. So I do partly agree with him complaining. But that didn't stop him making the same call that Russell did. And Russell totally made the call to go on softs. Hamilton could have made that call too. He didn't. Perez, an average day at the office. Fifth. When his teammate is going so quickly in the same car, you've got to be getting more out of the car for me. And I wouldn't be, Perez, I think, is signed on for another season. But if he carries on like this, it wouldn't surprise me to see Perez replaced at the end of his contract. Now, for me, driver of the day is Alonso for a few reasons. Most made places in the race there with 7. Great form in that Alpine, very racy all day, and I think it's worth mentioning he was the first driver, in my memory, to go on to those hard tyres early on and show they have pace. It was at that point, it was a roll of the dice because it was said that the hard tyres were nowhere. So for Alpine to have gone on to the hard tyres, it was a risky strategy. It was a strategy that paid off. Driver of the day for me, Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris. Good drive in a McLaren that Ricciardo's doing nothing with. Lando Norris, he didn't gain places, didn't lose places. 7th, solid, good points. Sainz, nightmare of a day. 8th place, should be doing better. Got a penalty because of an unsafe release, which granted isn't his fault because he's told when to go. But it just wasn't a good day at the office for Sainz. I think he was suffering with tyre deg. Not good. Not a good day at the office for Sainz. Ocon, 9th. Solid, 3 places gained. I did say in my pre-race on the watch-along that I felt Alpine had qualified badly. Ocon in 9th. Again, points for the Alpine squad. Good enough run. Now, Stroll, he qualified 10th. No places gained, no places lost. But I have to say, for Stroll and Aston Martin, that is a very, very, very solid showing. It's a point. It's a valuable point for Stroll there. And honestly, a good run. Gasly in 11th. Didn't gain, didn't lose. Solid run, no points. Not much to be said, really, about that from Gasly for me. Average. Albon, 12th. Williams, 3rd. Honestly, third. 3 places gained. Good run. Good run for Albon. Really, really good. I think he's getting the most you can get out of that Williams. I think it would take some really, really top-class drivers. I think if you're putting, I know this won't happen, but if you put in a Russell, a Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc into that car, you might be getting points a bit more often. But I think Albon is doing a very, very, very good job in that Williams. Schumacher. Now, I'm a Schumacher fan, and it was in the watch-along. He qualified in the top 10. Now, I think it has to be shown. The first stop, they couldn't get the jack away from the front of the car. So I'm told. I missed any replay, but someone told me in the chat they didn't get the jack away from the front of the car. Cost him a 10-second stop. And also, someone said his second stop was also terrible and down to the team. So I think Schumacher there, down in 13th, lost 5 places. Obviously flattered a little bit by the safety car. But I can't knock him for his run there because he had 2 disastrous pit stops that were no fault of his own. So there you go. Back on that, actually, Sainz nightmare. Ferrari, what are you doing? You called him in and you didn't have the tyres ready for his first stop. Idiocy. Vettel, fairly solid run, but, his teammates up in the points. Vettel gained places, but, I can't help but feel Vettel should have done better despite gaining 5 places. Maybe that's where he should have been all along with a better qualifying. Magnussen in 15th. Not a great weekend for Magnussen, honestly. Qualified terribly down in 18th and then also had an off. I don't think it was first. Was it first lap? Very early on. And he had a few passes in the race but ran deep in a lot of them. Just not a good weekend for K-Mag there. Zhou, a weekend to forget, really. Down in 16th. Losing a few places. I don't remember anything particularly from his race. Danny Rick, look, he's been getting pelters on social media, has Danny Rick. I'm not going to go in on him. 17th, no, it's not good enough. But I think from a very human side of things, his confidence must be through the floor. Like, I don't think he'll have given up. I think he'll be trying, but as much as McLaren want him gone, I think he wants out of that situation. I don't think it's particularly an excuse, but I don't think I need to add to the weight of stuff that he's getting online right now, because a lot of it is terrible and over the top. You know, yeah, and that's what I've got to say about. No, it's not good enough. Yes, he should have done better, but I'm not going to lay into him. I'm just not. I'm not about that. We all know it's there to see, right? It's there to see. Latifi, 18th. I mean, what can you really say? What can you really say? He's almost certainly going to be out of F1 at the end of this season. He's not for F1. Again, I'm not going to go in on him. I don't think it's incredibly mean to say that for the longest time we've all known he's not for F1, and he's continuing to show that. I hope if he is out of F1 at the end of the season, the guy can go on and have a good career elsewhere. Honestly, I've got no issue with him. He's just not for F1, right? He doesn't tend to do anything particularly stupid from memory. He's just not for F1. Bottas, it sounded like his gearbox went. He was having a so-so day at that point. Gearbox went, causing the safety car. Tsunoda retiring, believe a broken rear diff. So looking at the standings there, Max Verstappen with just a gigantic lead of 109 points as we go into the Monza round. Charles Leclerc second, joint second with Sergio Perez on 201 points. I still maintain this. It's embarrassing for Ferrari, that, in my opinion. With the car that they had, at least in the first half of this season. Sergio Perez level with Leclerc. Some would argue if his teammate's 109 points in front, Perez should be at least in second. George Russell there in fourth place. Another good showing. 188 points. And honestly, if that Mercedes is switched on, you could maybe see him knocking on the door of second and third in the championship this season. Carlos Sainz down in fifth. Honestly, with that car, in my opinion, I know it's only, 26 points. For me, he should be doing better. Lewis Hamilton, again, I feel like he should be doing better. Today, the look didn't go his way, but I do feel that he should be doing better than sixth place at this point. Lando Norris in seventh, solid. Esteban Ocon and also Alonso down there in eighth and ninth, and Bottas making up 10th in the championship. Having a quick look at the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull just hugely ahead. I think it's their constructors and it's their drivers to mess up now. They've got to have a legitimate crisis now, haven't they? They've got to have such huge issues in the remainder of the season. It's just, yeah, they're dominating this season. Ferrari in second there with 376, and Mercedes now just 30 points behind Ferrari. I think it would be shocking if Mercedes managed to take second place in the Constructors this season. Alpine are there extending their gap on McLaren. Honestly, that'll be amazing for Alpine, and Daniel Ricciardo is ruining McLaren's chances of fourth place on the Constructors standings there. They need that. It's millions of dollars in prize money. Danny Rick, he just needs to do better. Needs to do better, man. I think we'd all like to see it as well. It's just such a shame. Alfa Romeo in sixth there. Brilliant for them, really. Haas there in seventh. Alpha Tauri having a terrible season, it has to be said. And Aston Martin with a very, very valuable point there with Lance Stroll Williams with 4 points. Outside chance of more points for the end of the season. Please do make sure you have subscribed to the channel, guys, and hit the like button on this video. I will be back with more content this week in video form, and I'll be back with the watch-alongs for the Monza qualifying and Grand Prix next weekend. So please do make sure you subscribe for that one. Until then, I'll see you soon, guys. Thanks so much for watching.